Hello guys, my name is Maxwell from Nairobi Insight Media Group, and this is the crazy story of Gladys Chania, a rich politician who killed her husband for loving another woman. On September 13, 2022, 58-year-old Rwandan-based businessman George Mwangi traveled back to Kenya from his company to enjoy his leave. In his mind, everything was fine. But to his dear wife, Gladis Chania, nothing was okay. This trip was another painful reminder of how their marriage was failing despite surviving 20 years. Why it was failing, she didn't know. But who was fueling its failure she knew. And that was none other than Lucy Muthoni, a pretty teacher who had swept her husband George off his feet. Wonder how it got here? Here's the gist. Gladys Chania is a politician and a counseling psychologist who started out as a teacher in 1995, Mwingi district. 2 years later she resigned due to hardships and worked as a Red Cross coordinator posted in various Thika hospitals training midwives. She was also involved in charity organizations and was a member of the Kenya Scouts organization where she took various kids for camps and trainings for skills equipment. As she positively impacted her community, she met one George Mwangi, a decent young engineer who was smitten by her curvaceous body and passion for community. The two quickly fell in love and got married. A union that lasted 20 years, giving birth to 3 beautiful kids whom they loved and cared for in Christian ways. A love evident in her posts even in adulthood. George supported her in everything, even as she left him with the kids and flew to US in 2004 to pursue a bachelor's degree in sociology at Phoenix University in Arizona and later a master's degree in child psychology at Leicester University, UK. Years later, Gladys Chania earned her papers from the prestigious institutions and came back to Kenya and established a right-home rehab center in Thika where she was the main psychologist. Out of office, Gladys worked with the Thika community, inspired young girls at schools and helped those incarcerated at Thika Women's Prison with food aid and mentorship. Deeds that made her rub shoulders with political heavyweights in the country, earning herself a nomination to vie for Kiambu Women Rep seat under Jubilee ticket in 2022. She failed but fell into the arms of KANU, where she's the Women Congress National Secretary. As she scaled heights in her fields, George Mwangi also excelled as a civil engineer, building his family a palatial home in Mangu to live in and residential rentals to earn from in retirement. Business was good and he expanded to Kigali, Rwanda, whereby he set up his own company named Double M International, which forced him to move there to make it as successful as his deals in Kenya. His wife moved to Thika where her rehab center was located, and also for ease of working as she built yet another business they had started together. That of events and planning. The two workaholics enjoyed their marriage of 20 years plus, building an empire and support system that would be her source of courage as she strongly campaigned for the Kiambu Women Representative seat. But his wife's involvement with the community and political world could not afford her the luxury of retiring to a village, so she opted to rent a home in Kamathi Estate, Thika, for ease. That did not sit well with George, who was quickly approaching retirement age, where loneliness pressured him to open his heart for options since he desired to live his old days with love. Gladly the Lord answered his prayer. When he was approached by a lady seeking to rent his house. That lady was new in the town and had been impressed by the rental units George Mwangi had built next to his palatial home. On meeting her, George was dumbfounded. So he slowly courted the young mama, who was a teacher at a local school. Love brewed and George granted Lucy Muthoni a wish in Kenyan tenant would love. That of not paying monthly rent. Which sadly was the signal that gave away their brewing romance to his wife Gladys. She noticed that one house was not paying rent, and on inquiry she was told by her caretaker, "Boss said we don't request rent." She was angered and bothered by the secret request by her husband, so she decided to find out the tenant's identity. On meeting her, she realized she was facing her soon-to-be co-wife and scared her away using her political status. Later she faced her husband of 20 years expecting an apology, but was served with shock as George confessed falling in love with Lucy and actually thinking of adding her as a second wife. Gladys Chania was angered. This could not be real. This blatant admission of cheating by her husband worked Gladys up. She wondered what she lacked for George to seek comfort from another babe. She was curvaceous, had money, power and all. However, all these never seemed to interest George more than the comfort of a present and submissive wife whom he found in Lucy, whom he invited her to keep him company at his Mangyu home sometimes, where she took selfies. In addition, he allowed her to drive him in his KBY 849M Hilux car as they went to various entertainment joints around town every time George flew back in the country from Rwanda. They were inseparable. This new relationship widened the gap between Gladys and George, with Gladys now opting to stay at her Thika home away from the temptations of doing harm her new co-wife. Since it was campaign period, Gladys' determination to win the Kiambu seat kept her busy on the road trying to woo voters and forget whatever the heck was happening with her marriage. Meanwhile, George spent his holidays in Mangyu in the warm company of Lucy, who he allowed to drive his car as they went to entertain themselves at different joints in town. Truly, he was living his best life. So he decided to introduce Lucy to his family back at home. He no longer wanted to keep the affair a secret, and being an honorable man, he made known his love for Lucy to his sisters and mom. This introduction infuriated Gladys even more. First the man allowed her not to pay rent, then brought her to his home forcing her out, then allowed her to drive their car, and now she was being introduced to the family. No. She felt betrayed. She felt betrayed and couldn't take it no more. Anger got the best of her, so when George made his final trip to Kenya, she felt that she needed to teach him a lesson. A lesson that would haunt her forever. Like his usual routine, George arrived from Rwanda for holiday on September 11, 2022, proceeded to his house in Mangyu to enjoy the warmth of Lucy's company. Gladys, on the other hand, was at her home in Thika enjoying the comfort of her silence and distance. She posted that she had a plan saying, "Sunday vibes, in life never revenge, always let karma do it on your behalf. It comes like a thunder." In another post she said, "A determined mind is always powerful. Once you grow, you grow. Do not let negativity and ill intentions change who you are, who you may become and purpose you are living by. This life is not shared, it is your craft, the destiny." A plan so bad that she asked the Lord to help her not revenge, and while at it she sang worship songs seeking God's strength as she drove, since the plan was dangerous.
Bwana u sehemu yangu, rafiki yangu wewe, katika safari yangu tatembea na wewe, pamoja na wewe, pamoja na wewe, katika safari yangu tatembea na wewe, mahali hapa sikutaka ili niheshimiwe, na yani kute mashaka sawa sawa na wewe, pamoja na wewe, pamoja na wewe, Elia kute mashaka sawa sawa na wewe, niongoze safarini mbele.
However, the pain of betrayal by her love pained her much, since she could no longer cook for him, so she came up with a plan to teach him a lesson. Cryptically she left prints of her murder plan online. And it's the events of October 8, 2022 that pushed her to the edge when George called her to accompany him to an event at Kamunyu, and on arrival she found Lucy driving their Toyota Hilux. That was an egg on her face and fueled her thirst for revenge. She attended the event but left earlier than the two. George, on the other hand, shared drinks with his friends in the company of Lucy, and after a beautiful evening they left for Mangyu, where he dropped Lucy at her apartment, promising to take her out the next day. As he retired to bed, she struck him with a metal bar, killing the tycoon instantly at a place he built and thought was his safest spot. The next time the tycoon was being seen in public, he was wrapped up in a TV carton boxes at Kini Forest in Kiambu. A crime scene unseen and unprecedented.